Alright, good morning ladies and gentlemen. This is my first deck tech and I will be showing you the Mimeoplasm deck. It's mostly a combo deck, but at the same time runs a lot of planeswalkers and a lot of non-basic lands so that we can get our spells out there a little faster. So, with no further ado, we'll start out with the Mimeoplasm. Start off with our Commander's Arsenal foil Mimeoplasm. It says, as Mimeoplasm enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creatures from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other card. So, we'll kick it off with the basic lands. I run 4 swamps, 4 islands, and 4 forests, all Zendikar full arts. Then we get into our fetch lands. Now I only run the 3 for bug colors, so we have Polluted Delta, Misty Rainforest, Verdant Catacombs. We get into the original dual lands, Underground Sea, Tropical Island, Bayou, into the 3 shocks, Watery Grave, Breeding Pool, Overgrown Tombs. And then I run one of each of the artifact lands of Vault of Whispers, Seed of the Synod, Tree of Tales, into Cabal Coffers and the Orberg Tomb of Yawgmoth. Little combo, gets me a lot of black mana. Into Gaia's Cradle, because when I have a bunch of creatures on the battlefield, it gives me a massive amount of green mana. Nykthos for that devotion. Also gives me a lot of mana, mostly green or black, but on occasion it does give me quite a bit of blue mana. Academy Ruins. Yavimaya Hollow. Just allows us to regenerate target creature for just 1 green mana. Alchemist Refuge, because who doesn't love to play things as if they had flash. Besiege You, who shelters all. I don't play a lot of instants and sorceries, but those that I do play, I usually don't want them countered, so we play this. Homeward Path, because in my metagame, a lot of people like to steal our creatures with blatant thievery, so it's just a way for me to get my own creatures back. Reliquary Tower, because having no maximum hand size is definitely a thing in Magic. Maze of Ith, because with this deck, I do become the target of lots of creatures attacking me, so I usually like to untap their big fatties and just say no. Ancient Tomb, just because getting 2 mana out there that fast is always a plus. Strip Mine, combos off pretty well with some of the other cards I have in here. Command Tower, because it belongs in every commander deck. Now we jump into the instants and sorceries. So we have Damnation, Genesis Wave, just because getting a lot of spells out there for basically free and getting them out there as soon as possible is always a thing. We have Explosive Vegetation for ramp. Life from the Loam helps me get back my fetch lands pretty often and has the ability to dredge, so it gets my creatures into the graveyard pretty fast. Living Death, because I like to put a lot of creatures into my graveyard and keep most of my players' creatures on the battlefield. This just pretty much wipes their board and brings back all the creatures that I have strategically placed into my graveyard. Increasing Confusion. Sometimes I do target myself with this card just to help put some stuff into my graveyard to pop off Mimeoplasm a little faster, but every once in a while I will target my opponents because this is also a secondary mill deck. Traumatize, same thing as the Increasing Confusion. I like to put a lot of creature cards into the graveyard. This helps me do it really fast, but it also helps if I have an opponent who's playing a creature-heavy deck for me to abuse their deck as well in their graveyard. Bribery, just because if they're waiting to grab their big fat creature, hopefully I can get in there and grab it first and kill them with their own creatures. Tooth and Nail. Might as well be called Tooth and Nail with Entwine because that's the only way it ever gets cast. If I get this card out, it's usually game over and that's a win. Demonic Tutor. one of the few tutors that I do run in this deck. Just allows me to go out there and grab what I need and pretty much kill them next turn. Buried Alive allows me to put 3 creatures from my deck into my graveyard, and usually helps me set up my combo for the win. Worldly Tutor usually helps me grab one of the couple creatures that I use to ramp, such as Azusa or something like that. So this is always a good 1-drop turn 1. Court of Calling from the new M15. It's always a good card, good tutor. Sylvan Library. If I can get this out turn 2 or even turn 1, chances are you stand no chance at winning this game. Doubling Season, like I said, I do run quite a few Planeswalkers, but it also helps out Mimeoplasm to be twice as big by just coming into the battlefield the way it's supposed to. Exploration, I usually do play this turn 1, so by turn 4, I'm already hitting my game-winning combo while you're still trying to get your mana base set up. Solemn Simulacrum, or Sad Robot, just allows me to get that land out on the battlefield and always draw a card when he dies. Wormcoil Engine, I like to reanimate this guy quite often. Allows me to get quite a few 3/3 colorless worm tokens that people really have a hard time dealing with if they don't run a lot of removal. Colossus, I run this guy because he's indestructible. When he becomes monstrous, he gets 10 +1/+1 counters, and then he gets to attack as if he didn't have Defender. And this is almost always a guarantee for Mimeoplasm to come in as a copy of him and get monstrous, usually within the same turn, if not the next turn. And then I'm swinging for lethal with commander damage from there with an indestructible creature. Trinket Mage allows us to go get Soul Ring or Top or Elixir of Immortality to just kind of help reset us and start over again if somebody has jacked up our plan. Wonder allows us to have all our guys flying, because there's almost never a time in this game where I don't run or control a swamp or an island, excuse me. This is one of the creatures I usually grab with Buried Alive, just to kind of make sure that our Colossus will fly over most of their creatures. Phyrexian Metamorph, one of the greatest clones ever printed. Whether I need an extra birthing pod or an extra soul ring, it's never a bad option. Dreamborn Muse helps not only for me to mill, but helps mill my opponents pretty quick, especially if they just topped and then all of a sudden now they have to put those cards into their graveyard. Keeps them off of their draws. Consecrated Sphinx helps draw me a lot of cards, especially those people who like to draw as many cards as I do. This just helps me draw twice as many. Genetaxis is a foil altered, signed by Eric Deschamps, who did not do the altered art on this, but he still signed it because he did the original art. Has Flash, reduces an opponent's hand by 7 cards, and at the beginning of my end step I get to draw an additional 7 cards, so this allows me to get my hand size really big, really fast. Azusa Lost But Seeking, again, just helps me ramp really fast. This is usually a card that I shoot to try to get out turn 1, turn 2, and just go crazy with all the mana that I have and you don't. Elvish Piper allows me to put my big creatures on the battlefield pretty much as if they had Flash at the end of your turn, and then I pretty much kill you with it the very next turn. Brawn, this sometimes is another Buried Alive effect that I like to throw in there. Just give all my creatures trample, and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it unless you have a way of exiling my graveyard. Oracle of Moldiah allows me to know what's getting ready to get drawn. Allows me to play with my top a little bit more and play additional lands on my turn. Acidic Slime. If I see that you're abusing something a little too much, I'll just destroy it. Seedborn Muse, because untapping all my permanents is always a thing, and it gets really annoying to other people, and they have a hard time dealing with it. So, like I said, I just untap all my stuff at the beginning of everybody else's turn, especially if they play something like Vorinclex, where it's trying to keep me from untapping my lands. This takes care of that. Colonian Hydra. He doubles the number of 1/1 counters on each creature I control every time he attacks. So he comes in, and Mimeoplasm might be a small creature at that particular point. If I needed something fast to reanimate, he allows me to make Mimeoplasm that much bigger, that much faster. Hydra Omnivore. This is always a good card to have Mimeoplasm come in with, because if I can swing with him with something really big as his 1/1 counters, I could swing at one person and kill everybody in one swing. Vorinclex, altered and foiled, allows me to ramp that much faster with the mana that I have and slow my opponents down so that they can't untap their stuff next turn. Death Shadow, pretty much always guaranteed to die as soon as he comes in, but pretty much at the same time allows me to have a creature that Mimeoplasm can always come in with 13/13 1/1 counters on them, and there's not much anybody can do about it. Skithiryx is the only infect creature I run in this deck. This is one of the combo pieces for Skithiryx and Death Shadow. Pretty much guaranteed to hit you with 10 infect almost immediately. If not, it's going to be Death Shadow and Hydra Omnivore, and I'm swinging for, again, lethal and killing everybody in one turn. Nicholas the Fallen. I do, like I said, run a lot of ramps, so I've killed quite a few people with the loss of 3 life, and I've had him be well over a 50-50 with the 1/1 counters that he gets from my landfall. Nicholas Unshackled from M15, the new, I like to call him the cousin of the Fallen, but just to basically make people think twice about searching their library, and they also have to sack a creature. Keeps them off their game, and it keeps him getting bigger and bigger. Runescarred Demon, because it's basically a demonic tutor on a stick. Who doesn't like to birthing pod into basically a demonic tutor with a 6/6 flyer on the board? Sheoldred, foiled and altered as well. Allows me to recur my creatures at the beginning of my upkeep, and also keeps my opponents from having to, or keeps them sacrificing a creature at the end of, or at the beginning of their upkeep, so that therefore, as they're trying to play a creature, I'm constantly making sure that they don't keep it. Kruphix, God of Horizons, allows me to essentially ramp up on a lot of colorless mana at the end of opponents' turns, especially if I have like a Seaborn Muse or the Prophet of Kruphix out. He can save me a lot of mana really fast and allow me to ramp up. Phoenix, like I said, this is a secondary mill deck, so I have killed people based off of this ability, even if he is not a creature, just for the simple fact that if I have traumatized you and then Lord of Extinction on the board, guess what? The rest of your library is going away, and there's nothing you can do about it. Prophet of Kruphix, again, I like to untap all my stuff on everybody else's turn, and then be able to play my creature cards as if they have flash. It's just a backup plan to my Alchemist Refuge and Seedborn Muse. It's essentially 2 cards in 1. Again, I spoke of Lord of Extinction earlier. His power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. So if I have him out and Phoenix, like I said, it's game over already. Rexiel, the Risen. Just because I like to play my opponent's spells as much as they do, and pretty much take their flashback stuff and use it against them, so that it has to get exiled instead of going back to the graveyard. Damia, because like I said, drawing cards is always the thing in Magic. Pretty much guarantees that I'm going to always have 7 cards in my hand, and he's probably one of my favorite 7 drops. When we get into the Planeswalkers, I have a foil altered by Steve Argyle, Liliana of the Veil, because Lily is just a beast when it comes to not only Commander, but any format. Jace the Mind Sculptor, Fate Sealing, or being able to brainstorm at any given point, and with doubling season out on the board, it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to hit his ultimate, and somebody's going to have a bad day. Garruk, because I don't want you having Planeswalkers or anything great on the field, so I'm pretty much either going to destroy it and gain life, or I'm just going to destroy your Planeswalker and move on to my second win con. Alright, Karn Liberated, again, because I don't want you having stuff on the battlefields or in your hand, so I'm going to make sure that it goes away as fast as I can make it. Alright, into the artifacts, we have Soul Ring, Sensei's Divining Top, Elixir of Immortality, Aether Vial, Lightning Greaves, Darksteel Ingot, Crucible of Worlds, like I said, because with a Zusa on the board and a Strip Mine, I'm blowing up 3 of your lands per turn. Oblivion Stone, Birthing Pod, pretty much guaranteed that my curve is always going to get me a creature as I ramp up to get my Genetaxis if he's not already out there. Whip of Erebos, because I abuse my life quite often in this game. I like to give all my creatures lifelink so that I can kind of regenerate myself. And Chain to the Veil. It's a new card from M15 that basically allows me to abuse my Planeswalkers just a little bit more. Not only with doubling season on the board, but being able to activate 2 of the abilities per turn is pretty much game over for everybody. Alright folks, that is the Mimeoplasm deck. Let me know what you think about it, comment, and maybe I could start doing more of these. Thanks.